Hey everybody. So to pick up on the presentation of self section. Now we've talked about social groups earlier in this class and how important they are, and they're going to be really important in this section as well. One, because the social groups that you are a part of is going to influence the image you're attempting to portray to others, and you all can probably think of lots of examples in the college campus, how based on the social group you're in, you probably do various things that one, try to portray to others that you are a member of this group, but also the image you're trying to portray on campus is largely going to be influenced by this social group as well. For example, many of you may be a member of a Greek organization. Now, as part of a Greek life organization, you probably wear shirts with your letters on it. You probably have other memorabilia that highlights, I am a member of this group. However, on the other end, in addition to just showing you're a member of the group, there's always also going to be various things that influence you among these group of peers within your organization, your social group, that is going to impact the image you try to portray. And so always think about that give and take. Not only do you try to portray to others, yes, I'm in a group, but also how does that group want me to portray myself to other individuals? Now, even thinking just beyond things like campus groups, we're going to keep coming back to this theme that socialization, presentation shelf, all this stuff looks different across race, across class, across gender, across sexuality, and thinking about race, this is really important, especially in the U.S., where white norms or conformity to white norms are rewarded, especially can be rewarded in education settings, can be rewarded in the economic sector, in housing. And so Dave Chappelle does a skit on this that I normally show in our in-person class, so I encourage you to watch now. And he talks about how being black in America means being bilingual. And what he means by that is the ability to live and thrive in both black and white America. And this reality that he's saying as a black man growing up in America, he has to know how to conform to white norms when he's in the settings that demand it, and that's something that white Americans do not experience. They are not socialized and taught, hey, when you're in this setting, you have to act like this race, and that is something that Dave Chappelle is talking to around how conformity to white norms is encouraged and rewarded, and often there's an intentional effort by institutions to suppress elements that are non-white. We see this all the time in dress codes, hair codes, whether they be in businesses and school settings. When you read through these, you'll often notice there's never going to be anything, or hopefully not anything overtly in these policies that target racial groups. However, the policies are written in this colorblind way that, of course, they're going to disproportionately impact people of color. If anybody has seen, there's these really sad video of a child, is a black child about maybe 5, 6 years old, going into an elementary school, and he was told that he could not enter because of his hair. And he had dreadlocks, and that dreadlocks were prohibited in the school dress code. Well, of course, predominantly the students that are going to be impacted by that dress code are black students. And so this is an example of where actually not only are you not only encouraged to conform to white norms, but it's even written in the dress code. It's written in the code around what you're supposed to look like. Class. There's all kinds of different ways that your impression management is going to be impacted by your class. The easiest example is if you walk into a store. If you walk into a store and you have various status markers that portray, hey, I'm of a certain social class, you're more likely to get attention because they think that you, one, have the ability to buy something and they want you to buy something from that store. There's all kinds of discriminations that happen in shops around this, whether it be on the back end that not only, a lot of black customers not only don't get the same help that white customers get, but they often get followed and they're treated suspiciously because of racial stereotypes held by the shop owners, which sometimes writes into the shop code, which we're going to talk about in a raise. Like Versace actually got sued for this, actually having a code word to warn other employees that black customers were in there, or just general biases held by the employees. Now, even beyond just general social management, social impression management, they also exist within fields. For example, the medical field, you are taught a lot how to manage your emotions in front of your patients and present and be competent. This is especially, I use my sisters a lot. My sisters talk about this a lot. How being a woman in the medical field, they often, right off the bat, they have to earn the competency or earn the believability that they are competent from patients. That just men, their coworkers that are men just do not have to deal with those same hurdles. The same way, if often my older sister talks about, especially how she often feels like she has to suppress her emotions because any sign of emotions in the medical field is going to be highly emotional because you're dealing often with people at their worst moments. But any kind of indication of emotion is a way that's often it gets analyzed in a very gendered way, in a sexist way, and that show of emotionality can be seen as a sign of weakness or fragility among a woman that is in the medical field, and that same analysis isn't done for men. And so you learn this, and whether it be across gender or just the field in general, different ways that impression management plays a powerful role in our daily interactions. And so to wrap up, and what your activity is going to be on this week is about embarrassment. We all know what embarrassment is, but thinking through embarrassment, like why do we all know what embarrassment is, and why do we constantly try to avoid being embarrassed? Well, this is because when we are embarrassed, we feel that the identity we're trying to portray is suddenly gone. The example I give in the slide is, if you try to portray yourself in school as I'm the tough kid, man, I'm the tough kid, nobody mess with me, and then your mom comes to pick you up in a minivan, this may impact your attempt to portray yourself as a tough kid, and you become embarrassed. Corporations, organizations feel embarrassment. The example I give in the reading lecture notes is Chipotle. Chipotle is trying to constantly put out advertisements that shows, hey, we take care of our ingredients in a healthy way. These are healthy ingredients. Yet there keep being stories of consumers getting E. coli from Chipotle. They are becoming embarrassed as an organization. When you do feel embarrassment, this often, you're going to try to restore your identity right away. And that gets into these aligning actions. And that's the idea that when you've been embarrassed and your identity is spoiled, one, it throws off the social interaction that is happening. And two, you're trying to restore your identity as quickly as possible. However, it's often felt about, especially if you're in a conversation with somebody, they're going to want to try to fix the situation too, because it causes instability in that interaction. And so aligning actions are a way to try to minimize the damage and restore order to the identity you're trying to portray, or just the orderliness of an interaction. And the different types of aligning actions. So for this slide, think of aligning actions as one group, and these are three different types. The first being an account. This idea that you're going to say, think of as you're giving an apology after something that caused disruption. I was late because of traffic, or sorry I lashed out at you. I've been obsessed and stressed lately. That's an account. A disclaimer happens on the front end, and you're about to say something that you think may be disruptive, or may be harmful. So you put a disclaimer before. And my favorite example of this always is when somebody says, "I'm not racist, but," and what follows is something incredibly racist. They know that what they're saying is racist, and it's going to be taken that way. And so they try to put a disclaimer on it to minimize the damage and the fallout that comes from the following statement. And lastly is the cooling out. It's this idea that, you find a position, or you find a position that is reasonable yet is less desirable. It's the idea that somebody breaks up with you, even though you want to be with them, and they say, well, we can at least be friends. So you're not getting what you want. However, the cooling out that happens is, hey, we're still going to meet on this middle ground. So those are different types of aligning action. And as I mentioned before, and make sure you read through about stigma as well. But the actual activity for this week is going to get into embarrassment, and I hope you enjoy it and don't get too embarrassed while you're doing it. Okay, have a great day.